right. So yeah, I think we were able to cover a couple of things in the afternoon. If you can hear me, drop a message in the chat. If you can see my screen, let me know. Once you can see my screen, let me know in the chat as well. Let's see. Okay, so Samuel is here. Alawiye is here. All right. Sorry for the delay. Yeah, I really apologize for the delay. And I hope you can see my screen too. So let's continue from where we left off. Let's see. I think the last thing we were able to cover was yeah, we basically finished up with the UI, right? I mean the base implementation of the UI. We of course have to also move what we have to the backend, to the front end framework. But instead, I want us to really focus on, quickly, quickly set up the backend with Express. Okay, just give me 1 minute. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up something for to work with the data, to work with the let's see, open index of HTML. All right, so we're going to set up the backend for this, and we'll first have a simple backend to capture the business itself, right? We'll have a simple backend to capture the business. So I'm quickly going to open a ScaliDraw, so we can just have a very tiny, a diagram that would describe what the backend would look like, right? And it's going to be very simple. First of all, just to let you know, I have a training that will be coming up soon where I'll be teaching UML, right? For modeling, right? I'll teach how to use UML to come up with, activity diagrams, sequence diagrams, class diagrams, just to make sure you are able to understand how to work with engineering diagrams for the engineers, right? I have a class for that that will be coming up, very soon. I'm trying as much as possible to see how I can, fit some of these things into recorded sessions even before the class, so that we don't have to rush, through the class. Okay. Yeah. So, but for now, we're not going to work on some of those things. In a normal environment, in a real project setting, you want to have, things like a class diagram. It's not very compulsory. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't really go this route. But speaking from experience, I will always advise that you have some of these architectural, diagrams and engineering diagrams. It makes it easier for your developers to understand, what they are meant to work on, right? So, for example, we can have a use case diagram, and a use case diagram would describe the specific use case, for that particular project in terms of how the customer, would assess or get to communicate with the application. We have sequence diagram. We have activity diagram. Showing the flow of activity from your user, down to the system and also down to any external system, right? But we're not doing that now. So let's just call this our feedback API. So let's say we're building an API, right? So we have our feedback API. Okay. Then we also have yeah, what do we use here? Okay, so we have our feedback API. Then we also have okay. So we're going to classify. We have we have the business. Okay, and we have the customer somewhere around here. Customer who is going to be giving the feedback. Yeah. All right. So looking at our diagram right now, the feedback API is basically sitting in between these guys, right? So the customer is going to be communicating with the website, right? And the website, would of course communicate with these parties here. So let's just say we have our UI, which is our website. So web UI, which you can also call a client, basically. So this guy is going to basically communicate with the website, and this guy is communicating with our API. Now, what are some of the activities that can happen on our platform? The first activity you'll be looking at is the business, being able to create. Business should be able to to set up their business right here. Okay, so I'm just going to move this here, and I'll have the business set up. So let's just write some things here. So I'll say set up business, update business record. So more like create business. Every business should be able to create their business, with some details. These are the actions, by the way, right? So these are basically actions. Um, do we want to allow them to delete their business? Maybe. So we can say delete business. Yeah, for now we don't have an interface for that, right? But apart from this, what else do we want? Create business, update business, delete business. Yeah, I think that's fine. What about fetching the feedbacks for their business, right? So to fetch the feedback for their business, we can also have like fetch fetch feedbacks or feedback data. We can also have a single endpoint to fetch a single feedback data. Of course, there are other things you could actually have. Yeah, so I'm going to simply say this is the feedback under the business, right? And this is going to be, to set up the business account. So let's just call this business account, and I'll call this feedback data. So what we are seeing here is a business should be able to set up their business account, create, update, and delete their business. And of course, they can only have one business, right? And for the feedback data, we want to be able to fetch all the feedback, as attached to a business. Of course, paginate them, and you want to be able to fetch a single feedback. When you click on, that feedback, you want to see like more details about that. I mean, this is small. We're not going to go into details like maybe setting up analytics or stuff like that, right? And for the customer will be able to do one major thing, which is submit feedback, right? So submit feedback. Okay, so these guys will be able to submit feedback. Let's just call that feedback. And yeah, what else are we looking at here? So the feedback API would have the endpoints for all these things we have here, right? For the customer, for the business. Um, all right, so let's just analyze, or let's just put in some of the technologies that we'll be using for this. You can choose to use MongoDB if that is your choice for your database. So I can say database. We're going to be working with MongoDB. But let's just say stack. We have our stack. First of all, JavaScript um, and Express.js, right? So JavaScript and Node, of course. And we have MongoDB for our database, right? So programming is JavaScript. Then this for our database. Yeah, if you're really building something like this, I would definitely want to throw in, RabbitMQ or something like a service I can use to basically, have this feedback queue up, because we're going to be having like, a lot of records, right, coming in. But yeah, that is simply based on assumption. For our system right now, we probably don't need to do this, at least to have our MVP. We don't need that. But I would eventually want to set up something like that so that we don't have any failure when we're sending in the feedbacks. Okay, so there are so many things you consider when you're doing system design. I'm not going to dive deep into a lot of details that comes into system design, right? Reliability, speed, performance. Of course, I'm not going to touch. I'm not going to dive into most of those things. So we have our programming stack, and it's going to be a monolith application, right? So we want to build a single, monolith. I'll say a modular monolith application. Okay, and yeah, so I think this is fine. I don't really think we have a, yeah, I think one thing we might want to do is, services. So when there's a new feedback, you probably want to send an email. I don't know, or maybe you want to implement some sort of service for sending email, right? So we can choose to use AWS, or we can choose to use Mailgun, SendGrid. I think the option I wanted to use right now is the one I asked you to use the other time. I can't remember the name. I keep forgetting that name. Something mail. No. Um, Postmark. Right, I think it's Postmark. Yeah. So we're going to use Postmark. We are going to use Postmark for this. So let's go ahead and, uh, what am I forgetting here? I'm forgetting something, and I think I just remembered. Swagger. So I'm going to be using Swagger and Spotlight for our API design. Okay. All right, so I think that is what I forgot earlier. And for our service, we just have a single service. I'm going to start by quickly setting up my structure, and I'll be very fast with that. So if you have any question, drop a question in the chat while I am coding, and I will definitely answer you. Okay. All right. So looking at yeah, let's just set up the base structure first. I think if I have the base structure, then we can talk about the data, the type of data that goes in, right? So yeah, let's do that. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to simply move everything I have here into UI, right? So move assets into UI slash assets. Did I make a mistake there? So I said move. I'm moving assets. I don't know, into UI slash assets. Something wrong. Trying to move the whole thing. Oh, okay. CD UI ls. Okay. There's the UI. Okay, so now I can quickly do the API, right, which is my backend. So I have CD API npm init -y express mongoose. Um, yeah, I want calls. What else do I want? What else do I need? Let's work with this. Okay, I will show you how I go about setting up a login. I most times use a third-party app called Honey Badger for my login. If we're able to implement this on time, we'll just have a few minutes more for this session. We'll continue tomorrow, of course. Feel free to ask me questions regarding something you probably want to know, and I will touch on that. So we have our index.js file, and I'm simply going to go into that index.js file, and we're going to create our boilerplate right now. So let's just do const express equals require express, right? Okay, and yeah, const app equals express. What else? So yeah, I'm just going to say app.use express.json, right? What else? App.use express. So I think it's called a URL encoded. I hope I just forgot the name. URL encoded extend false. Is that correct? So I need extend extended true. Non-mission rights. Okay. Yeah, correct. All right, let's go back. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot, guys. VS Code is the right thing for this session. That is what most of us are familiar with. So let me zoom in. Oh, okay. All right. So that's my base URL. I'm going to have a docs, a docs URL as well when I implement a Swagger. So in order to do that, I have to quickly install. Uh, I think it's called a Swagger JS doc. Swagger uh, JS doc. Okay, it's called Swagger UI Express. This is what I use. So yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and install that. Okay. So while we're installing that, I'm just going to pull this out into my code. Right. So I have swagger.json. Let's do that here. So swagger.json. Nothing in there for now. And yeah, what else do we need? So my options plus the API doc endpoint. So yep. All right. Okay, so just want to call this docs. And yeah, so we have our base endpoint. So let me just say we have the base endpoint, and this endpoint will just give us a request, response, res of send, hello world, hello world. All right, so const ports equals process.env the ports, and I should install dot env, have dot env right here, right? Okay. Right, so if I have this, I'm just going to say if that does not exist, give me 3000 dot env ports 3000, probably 3001. Okay, and app.listen. I'm going to have the ports and what. Oh yeah, correct. Console.log app is running on ports. Ports. Okay, so let's see. All right, so I'm going to have what I call modules, and within the modules, I'm going to first have let's just have our feedback module to start with. Of course, I would also have business module. So within the business module, I basically I'm going to put in my repository, the directory I created instead of the file. The repository, yes. Okay. Schema. Okay. But one thing. Okay. So let's start off with the business. All right. So we are basically going to have a CRUD operation, but I want to first, have our API right here. Okay. I want to first, open Spotlight Studio, and but yeah, let's just go ahead and make sure that we can verify what we have inside, this single route, right? So I'm going to say const business, const express. Okay. Um, no, that is wrong. That is wrong. Okay, is this correct? Exports.createbusiness equals await. Where am I making the mistake? I can't figure out where I am making this mistake. Yeah, let me see. Okay, so if I have a create business, this, okay, that's what the send done. Exactly, I'm making a mistake somewhere. Yeah, let's see. Let's create business. I say let's create business equals. Oh, I'm sorry, I think I'm making a very tiny mistake somewhere. Okay, so if I put this guy in here, I have a weight right here. Sorry, a sink. Come on, Mav. Come on. Sink. Come on. That's bad. Exactly. Sorry about that. I think I wait, of course. So that was a very silly mistake. So let's have our exports right here. And within our routes, we are going to basically ensure we are able to get out the create business guy, okay? And we can now say business.get creates or business, okay? And create business. Have a comma here, right? So exports defaults. I'm kind of mixing up ES6 and common JS. So exports. Okay, exports. This. Let's go back to our index. Okay. Right. So let's see. Okay. So first of all, crashed. It says unexpected end of JSON input. Of course, we don't have any data inside Swagger for now. So let's go ahead and pull out Stoplight Studio. What's the time? We have 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes. Oh boy. Let's go with the on-premise thing. Come on now. I don't have to do this all the time. All the time. I can't really remember. Ah, can't really remember my workspace. I think it's a build hub. Build, build hub. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. Amazing. So I have to get my password. Give me a minute. I have to do that on a different screen. Right. Oh, oh, the problem. Problem with my email, not even the password. So, all right. So let's call this feedback app or feedback API. Create. Okay, create a new API, feedback API 0. So that was a mistake. I should actually have, where is it? Can I change this to JSON directly? Not going to work. Okay. All right, great. Okay, so we don't want these guys. Delete parts. Delete parts. Models. Delete model. Okay, so first of all, I think it is good if we can just stop this error from occurring here. So put this thing. So we have running on 3001. So let's go to our browser and let's just check it out. So localhost 3000, that is not 3001, this is 3001. Hello world. Okay, so our application is working. What if we have a localhost 1/docs? We also have our documentation endpoint. So I think someone is saying my screen is not clear. I don't know if it's your network. I think it might be your network. Let us talk about the data shape, right? The data shape. So let's look at some of the actions. First of all, the customer feedback. For the feedback, we of course we're going to have a JSON data, and I think for the JSON data, we can simply agree to the fact that you know our JSON data should look something like this. So I'm going to have a folder called this tests. Okay. So I'm going to have a simple file input.json so that I can create the shape of my data. And when you're creating a new feedback, what should the data look like? As an engineer, let's really take a look at what we have here. We have first name, last name, email, message, right? So we have first name, last name, email, message. That's what we're looking at. So remember, the business is you know right here. Do we really need to capture the business? Yes, we're going to capture that business. We want to capture the business that you're submitting that feedback to. But I think it's going to be primarily if that business even exists in the first place. Okay. So well, let's just capture that business from here. So we're also capturing the business. What else are we looking at here? Yeah, so I think that is it. We don't have any restriction for the amount of feedback that can be submitted by a user. So this shape is quite, you know, okay for us, at least for now. So let's go and yeah, work with that shape. So basically, we're going to have some input. We're going to have some request. Is a request body, right? We're going to have a request body. We'll call this request body new feedback, right? So inside that request body, all we have to do is generate from our JSON. We have the request body right here. And of course, we want all these items, you know, they are compulsory to us, right? They are compulsory, including the message and the business. So they are all compulsory. And we can specify to say, okay, this guy has to be an email, right? And in order to do that, we can simply go ahead and specify that this should come with the format of an email. Okay, so this is fine, right? This is good. So I'm going to say a new feedback requests body. Okay, and let's save that. So we have our request body here. Let's go down to the parts and our new parts. Remember, we have the feedback part. So I think instead of doing that here, I can simply do that from here. New endpoints, and I'm going to call this feedback, right? Yeah, so let's go ahead and say /feedback. Okay, so when we're working with feedback, we just want to do a post, right? So create a new feedback message, right? So post, create. And now we have the slash feedback pointing to post. So right now I can say this would create a new feedback, right? And for the body, you know, if this, come on, not that, take it off. Okay. So for the body, we have our new feedback. And for the response, if it's 200, and of course we should have our response. We don't have our response right now, right? So let's go to our response and let's create a new response. We're gonna have success and error, right? Okay. So they are both going to have the same shape, right? So we're gonna have status, which can be something like okay or failed. And then we're gonna have message, success, just like this. Okay, so this is our yeah, I think this is fine. Just the status and the message is kind of okay, right? So that's fine for us. Let's go down to the success, generate from JSON, paste this in here, generate. And we have to also do the same thing for the error because it's basically going to be the same thing. It's just going to contain failed and error, more like that, more like this. So copy, error, generate from JSON, paste here. So error response, save that, and success response. Save. Okay, so let's go back to our post. And on successful, we want to bring in the error, right? Success, sorry. And if it's successful, that should be 201, right? So 201 created. And we had a new option there. So first of all, one of the errors we might have, if this would definitely, yeah. So let's see. Let's see, not 400, but 422, right? So 422 is to say that it's the data that was sent in is not very correct. So that's an error. We still have maybe 500, which is also an error. Let's just work with those three. And yeah, so basically we have our API for feedback. We'll go ahead and, oh yeah, we just have 1 minute. So I think I'll just copy the code I have for now. Let's save this and take this off, paste it in here. Control V, save. Let's go back to our browser, localhost 3001/docs, and we have our docs. So we're going to jump into our Q&A session, and we'll probably continue from here tomorrow. I am sorry that we did not start this on time, but looking at what we have right now, you know, it's going to be quite easy to, you know, continue from here, right? Because we can simply go to our Swagger editor, and we can basically use this to generate an endpoint, you know, until we continue, you know, later, right? But remember, I taught you how to do this from the Swagger editor. You can basically do what we call scaffolding, right? You scaffold, yeah, convert to JSON. So you can simply generate a server, right, for Node.js. And you don't need, I mean, we already created our scaffold. We just need some basic things there, especially the controller, right? That is the major thing I think we need, you know, nothing more. So if I pick up the controller from here, I can simply, you know, grab this guy, right? I don't need these other guys, but I can just copy this, you know, to show you that, you know, you can basically create some of these things without having to, you know, open these items up all the time, right? So I can simply drop in the go to the feedback, go to controller, and drop this in here. And yeah, so we're going to continue from here. We're going to continue from here. For now, I'm going to take this off. We'll continue from here later. Please, let's quickly jump on Discord, and I'll see you guys on this particular design, on this particular implementation tomorrow. But yeah, let's move on to Discord real quick. Thank you. Thanks for joining, guys. We'll see you on Discord.